So in today's video, I'm going to compare these two lenses. Not specifically these exact lenses, but these two focal lengths with a different aperture. So what I'm holding in my hand here are two 24-70 lenses. And this is a very common lens that most photographers will have in their bag in some version. This one is the Nikon 24-70 f4 for the Z-mount cameras. And this is an F-mount Nikon 24-70 f2.8 lens that I have to adapt to use on my Nikon Z6 II. So what's the difference? Why would you buy one over the other? There's a size difference. I mean, you can see it right here. And if you're using it on one of the newer cameras, the Z-mount cameras, it's even bigger, the difference, because you have to use the adapter. So that's quite a difference in lens size right there. I had always had a 2.8 lens. I had a 28-70 2.8, and then I bought a 24-70 2.8 ever since I got seriously into photography. And it was my go-to walk around, use for everything, use professionally, use for portrait shoots, parties, whatever. It was my go-to lens that I used most of the time. When I bought my Nikon Z6 II, I didn't want to spend $2,000 or more than $2,000 for a 2.8 version, and I wanted to get a Nikon lens. My friend Guy was selling one of his 24-70 lenses that he got with his Nikon Z7, I think he has, and he asked me if I wanted to buy it from him, and I said, you know what, sure, I would love to have a lens that's native mount to the camera. So I bought this, and in my mind thinking, I'm going to get the 2.8 version eventually. Now, I've been using this lens for a while, and I really like it. And it's fast focusing. I find it to be incredibly sharp. It's small enough on the camera that it's not, I don't feel like I'm having a big bulky, or it's balanced, so it's not lens heavy. It's just been a really nice lens, and at this size, it's really easy to work with. Do I need a 2.8? I don't know. So that's what this is about. Today, I'm going to compare these two lenses. I took some images of my daughter, I took some images of a static subject, and then I took some images of a brick wall to check out the sharpness in the corners wide open to see if there's any difference in these lenses. Is it big enough to justify the price difference? This is actually a very well-built lens. It doesn't feel plasticky at all. It feels solid. It feels like a professional lens, just smaller. Whereas this Nikon, this is my friend's that I borrowed. This is I'm not sure what series this is, but it's a Nikon 24-70 2.8, for F-mount cameras. This one, I remember he bought it about, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. So that's about how old this lens is. But at the time, this was their most expensive 24-70. It's not the newest. It's not the Z-mount lens. It's for an F-mount. But, it should be a decent comparison. So we're going to jump in the computer, and I'm going to compare all these lenses, and then I'll come back to wrap it up. Okay, we're in the computer here, and I took some images of my daughter. Now this one, as you can see over here, all I did was adjust some of the settings just to get the lighting right so that the images matched. Okay, so I'm going to compare these actually. I'm going to do this one with this one. This one on the left was f4, the one on the right is f2.8. So when you look at it here, you can see it's a little more out of focus in the corners here. Let's zoom in and see. A little bit. So what do you think? They're both out of focus. Now, this is at 24 millimeters. So this is obviously going to show you less out of focus area than if we were shooting zoomed in, which I'll show you in the next image. Okay, so these are both shot at 50 millimeters. The framing here is a little off. It's not exactly the same. But let's take a look here. Now at 50 millimeters, this is f4. They're both pretty out of focus. Both sharp. Let's see, let's zoom in on, I don't know, these pillows in the corner. Let's see. I don't know. Remember, F4 is on the left. Okay, now let's go to 70 millimeters. Okay, this is a bit of a better comparison, I think. So when you look at these two, the f2.8 is on the left and the f4 is on the right this time. So let's look at this lamp behind her and see how much different it looks. They're both pretty out of focus. See the sharpness? Both lenses are sharp. And I have to be honest with you, I actually think the Z-mount lens is sharper than the older one. The f4 lens is on the right here. The window. There's definitely a little bit of a difference, but it's not huge. But is this something that you can live with? Okay, I did the same thing with my camera. Let's take a look at this one. Okay, these are both at 24 millimeters, f4 on the left, f2.8 on the right. So let's, you can definitely see that the image on the right is a little more out of focus. If you look at the table, it's a little sharper down here on the bottom left. But again, this is at 24 millimeters, so the wider you get, the depth of field is going to look less shallow. Okay, let's zoom in quick and take a look. Yeah, a little bit of a difference, not crazy. Both images are sharp. Okay, let's go to 50 millimeters. Okay, here's both of them at 50 millimeters. The f4 is on the left. Now, as you can see, in this one, I think there's a little bit more of a difference here. But I could live with the image on the left. If I wanted to separate this camera from its background, I think both of them are actually working pretty well here. You know, the pillows. You know, getting a nice out of focus area on both of them. And let's go to 70 millimeters now. Okay, this is at 70 millimeters. And, you know, again, a small difference. Here, the pictures in the background are definitely out of focus. They almost blend into the wall. They're a little more defined here in the f4 version. But the images are both sharp. I actually think the f4 is sharper again. You guys agree with that? I mean, it's pretty close, but I mean, if you look right here, I focused on the logo when I was taking these shots. And it's pretty close. I mean, if you look here, once you start to head back into the picture, this is going to start to get out of focus because the depth of field. But if we're looking at the exact, I was focusing right on the logo here. So, I mean, even in this grip right here, you can see it's more defined with the f4 lens. All right, and then the last thing I wanted to show you guys was the brick wall. All right, these were taken on the outside of my house. The only thing I corrected for was just to get the exposure the same. I didn't add sharpness or clarity or anything like that. This is just straight out of the camera. So let's look right at the middle of the picture. Now the f2.8 is on the left this time. This is the f4. Okay, so they both look pretty good here. Let's head up into the corner. Let's look in this corner. Well, again, I think the f4 lens, this bit of grout right here, looks a little sharper on the f4 lens than it does here. Now, would the S mount, you know, I mean the 24-70 S 2.8 be sharper than this older f mount lens? Probably. I'm just comparing these two lenses that I have. But you know, if you're worried about sharpness, buying a less expensive lens, I don't think you have to worry about that with this lens. You know, and it really shows in this bottom corner here. A big difference. So this is my little informal comparison. So what did you think? Not a huge difference, right? I didn't think it was a crazy amount of difference there. The cameras are both sharp. Probably any difference in sharpness you saw was my error in focus or something like that. But the out of focus area is really why people would go with a 2.8 as opposed to an f4. And I don't know, there's a little difference, but I don't know if it's enough to justify the price difference. So if you're shopping these lenses, maybe start with an f4 and see if it suits your needs before you go dropping, $2,500 on a brand new, f2.8, lens, a Nikon version of it. You can get less expensive third-party lenses from Sigma and, from Tamron, and I'm not sure. I think Tokina makes one also. But if you want a Nikon lens for your Nikon camera, you have two choices pretty much. And so, one is $600 and change and one is over $2,000. So that was just a little experiment here. I know it's not, perfect, and I'm sure there are some things I probably could have done differently, but I just thought it was something interesting. Okay, if you, want to discuss this in the comments, feel free to. I'm curious to see what you guys think about this. This focal length is something that I think every photographer should have in their bag. So I think it's a great lens to have in whatever form you decide to do it. And actually, with my Canon M50 that I shoot on all the time shooting these videos, I use the 15-45, which is basically a 24-70 equivalent, and it's just a great walk around focal length. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.